Alright folks, here we go. 9.2 is bringing some changes to the way that SHAMAN is going to play. So first off, with some changes to tuning, Flame Shock's being target capped at 6. We're going to talk about the impacts of that and some of the reasoning. Frost Shock had its damage increased by 40%, and Fire Elemental has the mana cost of its abilities reduced by 90%. And it should no longer run out of mana. And why that becomes important is because, dang it, our Ellies are going to be up a lot, and this is going to be a ton of fun. So really looking forward to where the class is going, and let's jump into some of the builds right away. So there's been a couple of kind of go-to Mythic Plus builds that I'll start, and then we'll touch on the raid builds after that. After that, we're going to need to spend some time on the new tier set updates, and then finally double legendaries, because it all comes together really nice. So from Mythic Plus builds, you've got kind of two different builds that are out there. You've got the Storm Elemental base build, which is what I'm recommending for 9.2. Tier 1, Echo of the Elements. Tier 2, Aftershock. Tier 3, wherever you want, but I like AoE stuns. Tier 4, Storm Elemental, which just is going to be super rewarding. Tier 5, whatever you want, depends on really what your dungeon composition looks like. Tier 6, Primal Elementalist. Tier 7, Stormkeeper. So pretty straightforward overall. Now, there's a slightly different build out there, and that's really just a build around Master of the Elements. And the only real difference is that you're not going with Storm Elemental. You're actually going with more of a Lava Burst based approach. And it's like, oh, okay, that's a little different, but let's explore this a little more maybe. So overall, Echoes of Great Sundering, this legendary right here, this works really well with the Masters of Elements build that you see on the screen. The other Storm Elemental based build works really well for Seeds of Rampant Growth or Skybreaker's Fiery Demise. So both of those legendaries kind of complement each other really well. But what I really like is I believe you can take this elemental build and incorporate it with the Night Fae build, Night Fae Legendary, Seeds of Rampant Growth, and Echoes of Great Sundering, and you're going to see a huge amount of damage here. It's going to make a massive difference. If you want to maximize the amount of damage you can do during AoE, you could go with Echo of the Elements, from Echo of the Elements into more of an Earth and Rage type approach. That you can play with that as well. There's a couple different components that are here. What the fun that kind of comes next is this. Just about every class is viable in Mythic Plus, as from a Covenant perspective. Probably the one specific Covenant that I'd recommend avoiding would be Venthyr. Take a little bit of time to avoid them if you can, but really I think Night Fae and the viability of Night Fae is going to really stand out. What you'll see from a raid build perspective is that like Earth and Rage is the absolute go-to. Then Aftershock, Tier 3, it just comes down to what your preference is. I'll go with Earth Shield just for conversation's sake. Tier 4, again, stick with Storm Elemental. Tier 5 is your preference or whatever your group needs if they need the Windrush Totem. Tier 6, stick with Primal Elementalist, but Tier 7, you're going to go with Unlimited Power. And it basically causes this Elemental Overload, which just stacks up haste up to 20%. And we know that haste treats us really well. Overall, this build starts to kind of set itself up around a few different components here, and one is kind of how Ice Fury ties into the overall build. But before we spend a ton of time on that, let's talk about the new tier set bonuses. So in 9.2 there's a new raid called Eternity's End. Ultimately you'll get item levels at 285 that will drop as rewards, or up to 285 if you're pushing mythic content. When you get 2 of the 5 tier set pieces, it basically gives you a buff called Fireheart when you're wearing them. And this buff actually causes your Storm or Fire Elemental. Whenever they're active, your Lava Burst begins to deal 20% additional damage. and you gain Lava Surge every 8 seconds. So when we look at how that either complements Storm Elemental, which drives up your damage throughput for your lightning, or Master of the Elements, where Lava Burst increases the damage of your next Nature Fury or Frost spells, you can see that there might be a Lava Burst Frost Shock combo that's coming at us here real soon. Now, when you start to look at the 4-piece set from a tier perspective, casting Lava Burst, you get, again, like an upgraded version of this buff called Fireheart. And when that occurs, casting Lava Burst extends the duration of your Storm Elemental and Fire Elemental by 1.5 seconds. So if your Storm Elemental or Fire Elemental is not active, Lava Burst has a 20% chance to reduce its remaining cooldown by 10 seconds instead, which is incredible. Really exciting to see that kind of flow through. So overall, this is just going to cause a tremendous amount of throughput damage. And for me, someone who plays a decent amount of PvP, it's actually going to be a bit of a problem, because I think I'm going to have to say bye to Venthyr and hello to a few different groups here, because this elemental is just going to be blasting. I think it's going to be, we're going to find that it's in a really good spot. Just drop earthquakes on everything, and then the game's pretty much over after that. So I think this is going to drive a tremendous amount of damage through our single target builds. Like, stay tuned for this one, because I really think it's going to be that good. It's going to be an incredible difference maker. But I'm really interested to see if it's going to benefit us a whole lot. Elemental was in a great spot from its AoE damage, and that was tied to what the benefits we were getting from Earthquake. So I'm really kind of curious to see if we're going to be able to maintain that trend, or what's going to come at us next. As far as legendaries go, your best rating legendary is going to be Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence. The best one that you compare that with will be Night Phase Seeds of Rampant Growth. For Mythic Plus, it's going to be Echoes of Great Sundering, and again, combined with Seeds of Rampant Growth. So if you're not picking up where we're going, Night Phase is going to be the recommended covenant for both rating and Mythic Plus. If you're looking to like push top end, like the absolute highest end content that's out there. That's going to be a bit of a change. Basically, a lot of the covenants are viable though. However, like these tier bonuses are going to make a massive quality of life difference for us. We're really excited to see where we go next with it. I think the combination of Seeds of Rampant Growth and Echoes of a Great Sundering are going to make a tremendous amount of difference here for pretty much everyone. Like, unless you're a Race for World First type player, you'll be able to enjoy any covenant. But I'm really excited to see how far this is going to go, because I think the class is going to be a bunch of fun. A real treat. Alright, that's my thoughts right now on where the class is, where it's going. I think Mythic Plus is going to be the go-to for Night Fae. I think we're going to see a similar thing for raids. Necrolord and Kyrian will be viable. Just avoid Venthyr. It's just not going to be as necessarily rewarding as we may necessarily hope. So we'll throw that out there and kind of see what the class brings us next. Alright, drop down in the comments. Let me know what I hit. Let me know if there was any misses. Talk to me about the good stuff and the bad, and I'll talk to you all soon. Alright folks, take care. Later.